Okay, alright. Get some settings up here. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Switch up some phone settings. Mm-hmm. Hmm. What is this?
The ancient Greeks had four words for love. The first is
Hello, we are thrilled to greet you from our new home at the Battersea Arts Centre, which has hosted everything from radical thinkers to beatboxers.
So you should be able to handle a few artists.
But can today's artists handle the Battersea Arts Centre and the challenges we've set them? Welcome to a brand new series, Portrait Artist of the Year 2020.
Over the next 10 weeks, talented artists from across the UK and Ireland will be given the task of creating a portrait in just 4 hours.
4 hours is a very short time, goes very quick. Wish I had a bit longer, really.
I've heard that before.
Yeah. Their skill and stamina will be challenged.
This is a whole new pace of drawing that I didn't even know I had.
Really panicking now. I want to scream.
They'll face not just an audience, but a range of celebrity sitters.
How you doing?
From national treasures
I could pickle me walnuts.
to faces we know and love.
You brought some glamour to the Battersea Arts
Yo,
Centre.
what up, what up, what up?
Tried. You look lovely.
Thank you.
That might be a little tricky over 4 hours, sitting forward.
What about-
But if we-
I don't know what that is, really. I thought it was going to be something interesting, but starting off slow. Just reading some messages real quick. Okay.
From Reuters about 14 hours ago. Reuters, the ruling Communist Party's propaganda department, this one. Chinese President Xi Jinping warned top officials last week that efforts to contain the new virus had gone too far, threatening the country's economy, sources told Reuters, days before Beijing rolled out measures to soften the blow. Also, the ruling Communist Party's propaganda department, according to Reuters, last week ordered state media to focus on economic recovery, according to a person with direct knowledge of the order who declined to be named because of the sensitivity of the situation. So also Reuters, after reviewing reports on the outbreak from the NDRC and other economic departments, President Xi said during a February 3rd meeting of the Politburo Standing Committee that some of the actions taken to contain the virus are harming the economy. President Xi reportedly urged officials to refrain from more restrictive measures So, is it the case that China is easing, not doing everything that you normally would do if you were trying to stop the virus because they're worried about the economy? Again, Reuters, China's President Xi warned top officials last week that efforts to contain the new coronavirus had gone too far, threatening the country's economy, sources told Reuters days before Beijing rolled out measures to soften the blow. Two people familiar with the meeting said President Xi urged officials to refrain from more restrictive measures.
What up, guys? I'm
and also,
talking to somebody from a gallery right now.
Take on this. There's an account I follow, and it's not somebody I know or anything, but I feel like they have some interesting takes on the on like some of the numbers coming out of China. See if I can figure out where this account is so I can show it to you. See if I can find this one account. They believe that China is manipulating the numbers. Yeah. So look, again, this is not. I don't know who this person is, but I follow them for virus stuff. It's an account called Event Horizon, just because I think they have some interesting opinions about. This account, the person who does this account is skeptical of China's numbers, and I think they have some interesting opinions. So I like seeing their opinions about what's going on. So this account thinks, but what the interesting thing they point out though is that if you look at how, as we mentioned, the number of new cases has been declining. We've been telling you this. So this person has this graph of the number of new cases in China, and they point out how. Starting on February 4th, the numbers just started going down of new cases. And Reuters reports that in a February 3rd meeting, President Xi said basically like, oh, the measures, we're hurting the economy too much with our strict measures to fight the virus. So it's interesting that Reuters is reporting that on February 3rd there was this meeting that where President Xi told people like our fighting the virus is hurting the economy too much, and then right after that basically the numbers start going down every day for the number of new cases. Are those two things related? I have no idea. It's just an interesting thought that this person has. This person thinks they're related. I have no idea if they are. I just think that's an interesting point they make, that the meeting that Reuters said happened, where President Xi was saying, we're hurting the economy too much, that happened just before we started seeing the daily drops in the new number of official cases. It's just an interesting point. Hey, thanks, by the way, to David Wilson. David says, can your graph person? And they do the graphs, and they're nice enough to give them to me. That's Richard Eves. Can Richard make a graph for confirmed, suspected, and cured dead, with the latter delayed for the fit first? So if you do have a, let me say this, you can reach out to if you'd like to see a certain graph, you can reach out to Richard yourself. You know, he already does a bunch of graphs for the broadcast, so I don't want to weigh him down with too much. But at the same time, he's been posting some of his graphs. But he is at I'm Stormy Night, I'm Stormy Night.
43,000 confirmed cases.
So if you want to go to Richard's
over
Twitter,
1,000 deaths so far from this shit.
And he's at I'm Stormy Night. So if there's a certain thing you'd like to see, you can request it. Maybe he'll post it on his Twitter page. At I'm Stormy Night. He does good graphs. We use his graphs on the air. Thanks for your support, David Wilson. All right, so we have. It is 5:17 a.m. 5:17 a.m. China time. In less than an hour, we'll be getting the new official number from Hubei province. Will we see yet another day of official numbers dropping in China of numbers of cases? Will we see yet another day? There have been 7 straight days. There have been 7 straight days of falling new case numbers from mainland China besides Hubei province. For 7 straight days, the official number of new cases in mainland China besides Hubei province has dropped. That is the numbers for the last 7 days. Similarly, in Hubei province, when you're not talking about Wuhan, for 5 straight days, the numbers have dropped. In Wuhan for 5 straight, in Hubei province outside of Wuhan for 5 straight days. The only place where the numbers haven't been dropping every day lately is Wuhan, but the official numbers have been dropping all across China steadily for 7 days all across China and 5 days within Hubei province, not including Wuhan. Will we see yet another day of these lower numbers? I don't know. That is what I'm looking for. Hey, thanks Janet Partridge for your support. Janet Partridge says, WHO is not happy. China is not going to add people that test for the virus but have no symptoms to the official numbers. Has the WHO commented on that? I'm not aware if they've commented on it. There's a bunch of reporting out there that says China is not adding people
asking a lot of questions
to the official case number if they test positive for the virus if they don't show any symptoms. The WHO says that should count as an official case. Also, it seems like you count it as an official case also because China itself has said they believe that people without symptoms can spread the virus. But there's a bunch of reporting. More reporting came out about this after we were on the air yesterday, suggesting that China is not counting people without symptoms in the case numbers, even if they test positive. Now, I don't know how big a number that is. I don't know if that's a huge number or a little number in terms of the number of people they test. I don't believe they've released the number. Yeah, here's this again. Here's this. This is the Reuters story again. Ankit Panda posts about it. Xi warned officials that efforts to stop virus could hurt economy. I'd like the WHO to comment on this story. What does the WHO think about this story from Reuters? That seems like a big story. Anyways, Janet, if you hear of the WHO commenting on the whole thing with China and the unconfirmed and people, asymptomatic people not being counted as cases, please let me know. Hey, thanks Broken Signals for your support as well. I appreciate Broken Signals, and thanks for thanking the mods.
Wow, more questions.
Richard Scott Bixler, our viewer, thinks, sadly, no matter how much number and statistics crunching we do, we may never know the real numbers of infected and dead people related to the virus outbreak because the CCP is covering it up. I certainly would not be surprised if we never really know how big this outbreak was. I would not be surprised at all. I mean, personally, I would say that's more likely than not. If you force me to bet on it, I would bet on the side of we will never fully know how many people died and had this virus. But maybe I'm wrong. That's what I'm thinking about.
Yo.
Thank you, Dominique Camara, for your support. I appreciate it, Dominique Camara. And thanks for your kind words, Blue Phoenix. Chadwick Redmayne sent me this. The WHO posted 15 minutes ago. They said the route of transmission of the virus to humans at the start of this event remains unclear. Look, they're still calling it this. They're not even calling it. They're not even calling it COVID-19 in their own tweet. The current most likely hypothesis is that an immediate intermediary.
So I get like local news updates on my phone and shit, just like a newspaper and shit. And so, yo, what up? So I'm reading through the papers and stuff, and it was like this gallery had some art gallery had some grand opening. They started listing off local artists and shit. And then where it's at, yo, it's close to me. I'm like, wait, whoa. Why the hell I ain't hear about this shit? So I'm reading the article, and then it's actually like a tattoo parlor / gallery. So, I mean, tattoos it's an art form. It's an ancient form of art. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people are like, oh, you should be a tattoo artist. I don't think so. Like, tattooing is like too much like a job, and you're always doing what someone else wants you to do. But I have tattoos. I think they're fucking cool. But I'm just assuming like somebody is bought a building or renting out a space that's big enough for a tattoo parlor and still has extra wall space or whatever to display art. And so I would definitely I'll show in some place like that. You know what I'm saying? And so I contacted them and was like, yo, I read about you guys in the newspaper. What's up, bro? Let me get down with the next event. And so the guy had hit me back, just asking some basic questions. But it seems like we actually have a friend in common too. We have 4 mutual friends in common. And so we know some of the same people. Gotta watch Ink Masters. Hmm. That sounds interesting. Let me see something real quick. It's not that. It's not that one. Dang. Hold on. I'm trying to find something to send to this guy. Nope, not that. Oh my god, I can't. I had a file on my phone with my damn. Not that. No. Why can't I find this thing? You know what? Fuck it. I can't find it. I had, you know what? It might be, it actually might be on my damn laptop, honestly. Because I don't see it in my notes on my phone. Oh, this is it. Here it is. This isn't updated though. Who did I send an updated version? Oh, I know what it was for. Um, I had sent an updated version to yeah, Rage Against the Machine gonna do a tour in my area, yo. Swear to God. Doing a tour over here. I heard it on the radio this morning. Bulls on parade! So I sent an email to Yeah, I'm thinking it's on my laptop and not on my phone because these right here don't even have any 2019 dates on it. Okay, it is what it is. Yeah, I think this guy is. He looked through my. I sent him my Instagram link. He probably looked through there and was like, "This shit is too black." He was all like, "Oh, I don't think I would be able to sell random portraits." I'm like, they're not really random, but dude is gonna hate because I hate that shit too because I've already heard it one time before. I felt it myself before somebody actually acknowledged it out loud, so I didn't have to acknowledge it out loud. But someone was like, at this one show I did, they were like, well, let's not put this piece talking about one of my paintings. Let's not put this in the show because it's really good. It's way better than everything else that's in here. And I'm like, okay, to give people like a chance not to look bad, but I don't know. It might be a situation like that where this dude is looking at my art and he's thinking to himself, oh, this shit is too good. He'll be the best artist in here, and it's all black shit. Blah 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 blah. Whatever. It's all good, bro. You don't want me to short your spot? Hey, no problem. I'm gonna just flood his fucking inbox with all this art. Yo, he's gonna get tired of seeing my art. It's gonna hurt so bad. Alright, I'm gonna send one more. And I want it to be alright. Yeah, if you can't afford to buy a property outright, you would just have to rent it month to month or lease it out for a year. If I was gonna run my own gallery and I couldn't afford to buy a building, I would definitely just do a year-to-year lease. Or if my bread was right, I would do like a long-term lease, like 5 years or something. You know what I'm saying? Just go ahead and kick out for the building, and like I know for 5 years I got this spot. And then leasing it, you don't have to worry about property taxes and all that shit. All you gotta do is worry about keeping the lights and shit on. Keep the lights and the water on, and then you can do whatever as long as you don't fuck the building up. But that is my ultimate goal, to have a studio gallery that's not in my house. I need my own spit out. And that way, do like the other galleries do and just charge membership fees. Like charge a monthly or an annual membership fee and just sell art merchandise, rent the spot out to other people who want to host events there and have like monthly events, charge artists a little bit of commission for sales and normal shit like that, just like any other gallery. But then also have like a studio area in it where I can work at, and also instruct classes, or have other people, if they want to rent it out for instructional purposes or anything. So there is a building that's close by, and I don't know. To me, it looks like it would make a really nice art center. So hopefully this year I can start looking into something and seeing if I can actually get closer towards that, having somewhere like my own spot as a legit business, a for-profit. Non-profits are good, but with non-profits, like, you really depend on a lot of donations and what up. Yo, Mike. Yeah, but what it would cost to rent a business property, I don't know. Honestly, I've never done it before. Bruh, I got this grant ceremony coming up Friday, and I got awarded a little grant. But there is another grant that I know about that's like a $12,000 grant. But that's all I gotta really do is just like start figuring out who give up money for the art show and what counties, and trying to talk with some property owners about, adding some culture and art to the community, and see if I can get some shit popping here. They say it's about time. Really need my own shit, yeah. Get me a couple of students up. You know what I'm saying? I got a great job, yo. I ain't gonna lie, yo. I really don't mind going to work. Do I love my job? No, I'd rather sit here and paint all fucking day. You know what I'm saying? And play video games. That's what I would want to do with my life. But do I mind going to my job? I really don't. I really don't. But if I can once again, if I can just live like this, I'm not asking for mansions and Bugattis and none of that shit. I just need to maintain my bills and keep food in my fridge. That's all. That's all I need to do, man. So if I can do that shit from selling art and instructing art classes and renting out an art space or some shit like that, I would definitely leave my job for that. Yes. So I'm definitely gonna start looking into some stuff. About to start formulating my own little art league over here where I'm at. I met two other artists, two young guys. All this are almost the same age, and both of them are really into the arts. And so I'm just trying to tell them, man, we can do our own shit, yeah. Really, that's all you have to do is go to YouTube, Electric City TV, and then just kind of scroll down and look through the list. We actually just posted another show not too long ago. It was actually our first episode that we filmed, so it's the roughest looking and sounding one. Because we had to, after the first episode, we figured out, oh, we should do this different, we should do this different, and this different. But so it's actually listed as episode 3. We have 4 episodes out, but one of them is the December member show, and that's the one where we were in the gallery. So it's not actually like a studio episode. So they didn't list it as a studio episode. It was just kind of like an extra. And so we have that episode and 3 studio episodes that are airing now, which are Richard Huck, Joy Zavada, and Joe Cluck are the 3 episodes that are out. So if you scroll down, go to Electric City TV on YouTube. Go to their video list. I think it is, or is it? I think it's the video list. Oh yeah, go to their homepage, and then you go over to videos, and you just scroll down the video. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 videos down. It says 1 week ago was the episode where they posted me and Joe, and then from that one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 more episodes down is another one with me and Rich. And then if you scroll down, you'll see the ones, and they either say round table or they'll have my name on it. Joe Cluck, yo, he the man with the pastels, yo. I swear he is. Matter of fact, on First Friday, he actually donated some art that was being auctioned at not auctioned, but raffled off at the gallery. And I don't even have to see his name, bro. And then like halfway across the room, I just look, I seen the little drawing. I'm like, oh, like some of Joe shit. Get up close to it, Joe Cluck. I'm like, bro, I know his shit anywhere now. Like, I just look at it. Like he's actually one of my favorite local artists, yo. And so I'm surprised he gives away a lot of his stuff too. But he's been doing this for years. This nigga don't be doing no work. I can't believe I intimidated that guy that quick though. I just showed him some pictures and stuff, and it's like, oh. So weird. So weird. That's how it goes sometimes. The dude said, I don't think I can sell random portraits. You ain't gotta sell it, bro. Art sells itself just like drugs, man. Somebody see it, they like it, they gonna buy it. If they don't like it, they not gonna buy it. Like you gotta sell that shit. Like, yo man, this shit right here, this shit fire, bro. Like, look man, they got 2 headlights and a tail light. Like, motherfucker really gotta pitch that shit. It's that drop, boy. You don't see that beige color to it, boy. Ting! You hear it hit the pot? Ting! You ain't gotta do my art like that. Look at these brush strokes. You see the colors, the hues. You know what kind of paint this is? That's gambling, nigga. That's gambling. If you ain't buying this art, you gambling with your money. It's an investment. It's an investment piece. But no. My man said, I don't think I can sell random portraits. I don't think I can sell random portraits. That's weird. That's nice. So I sent him a bunch of other paintings that aren't portraits. Like, and then I sent him some of the paintings I did of white people. Just like, here, dude, I only, you know. And then I said, what did I say just now? He's not reading my messages anymore either. If you're not interested in showing my work, maybe you can tell your art buddies about my TV show. I'm always looking for artists to interview, and we'll be filming season 2 soon. Thanks for taking time out of your day to chat with me. Just stay nice and polite. There's no reason to, you know. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Motherfucker don't like your shit, they don't like your shit. That's how I know I'm great, though. Rejection. That's funny. Oh well.
And thank you, MVD079, for your support and for your kind words about the mods. Thank you, MVD079.
Y'all keeping up with this corona shit? I gotta check this shit once a day in the evening, yo. When I get home, yo, coronavirus. 1,018 people almost
It's
caught.
behind a paywall. Sorry.
I tried to hold it back. I
But
couldn't fight
this
them though. So
whole
it's 1,018 people dead from this
talks
thing,
about the various
and they're saying right now confirmed cases are
problems with the virus
43,116
testing.
confirmed cases. 43,116 confirmed cases. 1,018 deaths. And they're like a couple of cruise ships are quarantined. I think one was off the coast of Italy somewhere. One was off the coast of Japan or some shit, Yokohama somewhere, yo. They got groups of people, yo. They tested 106 people, and like 64 people had the coronavirus. And it's like a couple of Canada. I think Canada say they got like 6 or 7 people on one of them cruise ships, and man, people all from around the world, man, just trying to take vacation, bro.
And how they may
Yeah.
be failing to detect the virus in a large portion of those tested.
Bro, everybody started to say the same thing, yo. And for the simple fact that China waited almost 6 weeks
All right, hey, we
to
gotta
tell
we gotta
everybody
wait for
else,
Hubei,
like,
as we wait for the new Hubei numbers.
oh, and we're waiting on new numbers now. So these are the numbers from yesterday. So these numbers are going to get an update. The 1,018 deaths, 43,116 confirmed cases. These are from yesterday, and I think he's waiting
So
on.
this is the Hubei site.
I think he's waiting on new numbers today. But that's the main thing, yo. For the simple fact that China took almost 6 weeks to tell the rest of the world, we have a problem. That's like, how can you trust anything they say after that? You know, like, how long did y'all know about this? Oh, 2 weeks ago. 4 weeks ago. 6 weeks, almost 2 months ago. And it's like, really, guys? Really? Well, let us come in and help. No, we got it. We don't need your help. And then the World Health Organization said it again. And the CDC from America said it again. Hey, let us come in and help. And they're like, we got it. And then the third time, they're like, okay, we might need you guys to come help us. And now it's like there's over 40-something confirmed cases in America. I think we had our first death in America. Don't know if they were a natural born citizen or a naturalized citizen. Don't know which one. Most of the people who they say are American are, naturalized citizens. They came over here, they got their green card or whatever process to become an American citizen. But were they like born? Because these people have family in these Asian countries and in China, and so they're going over there and then trying to get back home. And the same thing with a lot of these Canadian residents. Are that they are from China. They're originally from China. They have Canadian citizenship now, but they went home on vacation or whatever, the New Year, and they're trying to get back to what they're saying home now. I got to go back home to Canada because they made their life in Canada now. So it's like, yeah, but are you really Canadian? And so when they say Canadian cases and American cases, they're in this country. But it's because these people were over there in China. And they have like this one, like a group of Germans that are passing this stuff around now, because there was some German businessman who had a meeting in China. And then, no. A German businessman had a meeting with somebody from Wuhan, China, came to Germany, gave him that shit. He ain't know. He going around now. He passing that shit all around everybody. There was some French businessman who went to Singapore or somewhere, caught that shit in Singapore. And then he went to Italy, infected a couple of people over there in Italy. And then he went back to France. And now he passing that shit around France. And it's like, yo, this shit is weird, and they're not, like you say, these numbers are lowballed at best.
And also remember, we've been hearing all kinds of stories about different cities in Hubei province. There's all kinds of reporting about them having lots of cases, hospitals being overrun, like Guangdong and Jiaogang.
And they said there's one other reporter. He was still getting video footage and shit out of like what's really going on. His ass disappeared. Motherfucker vanished. His family got a phone call talking about he has to be quarantined. Man, they done waterboarded that man, tortured his ass. How you getting the videos out? Killed him.
One thought I had is just, it might just, if they're fake numbers, it might just be so glaringly obvious that Wuhan has issues that they can't. If you were going to fake the numbers, you might figure, well, let's just not fake them in Wuhan, or let's just not have such a big drop in Wuhan because it'll be so clear that that's incorrect because of what's going on in Wuhan. So, but who knows? I don't know if they're fake or real. I just don't know. Certainly, it sounds like they're greatly underestimating the number of cases. One, because of the litany of problems with the testing, which we've been reporting on, and two, because as many scientists have pointed out, they're not testing for mild cases. They're only testing people with severe symptoms, and many scientists say that the mild cases actually make up the large majority of cases. But generally speaking, from the reporting, you're not going to get tested in China unless you have severe symptoms. So, yeah, so we'll start checking on this. It's 6:05 a.m. But 5:45, the key number is, I mean, look, well, let me show you. One other number I'm going to be looking at is the number of deaths. The number of deaths in China have mostly been from Hubei province. And the number of deaths yesterday in Hubei province was a new high. It was 103 in Hubei province. So I'm going to be looking to see how does the number of deaths compare to 103, because that's been going up every day for the last few days. And then Wuhan, the number of cases in Wuhan officially has kind of gone back and forth. Yesterday it was 1,500 something. 3 different days it's been 1,900 something. It sounds like from the reporting that there's just a limit on the number of tests they can do. So who knows how many people actually have it in Wuhan and elsewhere. It sounds like possibly that the testing is limiting, the testing kit shortage is limiting how many people can be diagnosed with this. So I don't know if it's even possible for the Wuhan number to go above 1,900 something in a day, given testing limitations.
That's the thing, too. Motherfuckers ain't even got enough tests for this shit.
All right, so we're waiting at 6:06 a.m. We are waiting for this number.
They ain't got enough doctors.
But so we're just, we will let you know as soon as we have it.
And then there's the thing, too,
Give me a shout. Let me know your thoughts at Lookner on.
If their hospitals are flooded with these people like this, what about people who need chemo or dialysis or I don't know, any regular kind of treatment you go to the hospital for? Like, what about regular broken bones or I don't know, burn victims? I mean, anything. Like, where do people without any symptoms of the virus who have just other ailments or routine medical visits that they need, like, where are these people going? Like, how are you still, trying to deliver babies? Motherfucking whatever, do stitches, like, where, I don't know, like, where is everybody, where are the hospitals for everyone else who doesn't have this shit? Because if I'm in China right now and I broke my finger, like, let's go to the hospital, I'd be scared. Like, I don't want to go to the hospital because motherfuckers in the hospital got the virus. You know what I'm saying? Let me duct tape this bitch back. It'll be all right. That shit'll work. You know what I'm saying? But once again, like, if you need dialysis or something, you gotta go to, your personal practitioner, or I don't know. It just seems like they're in a really fucked up situation right now, where you got 43,000 people confirmed infections, and most of them are located in mainland China, and the majority of those are in that one city of Wuhan in the province of Hubei. And it's like, I don't know. And they're saying a population of 11 million. 43,000 isn't a lot out of 11 million. Out of 11 million people, it's bad to say it, but just comparing the numbers, 11 million people, 1,018 people died out of 11 million people. That's probably less than car accident victims, or even probably just like accidental trip and fall. You know how many people fall down the stairs in their house and kill themselves? Like a couple thousand people do that shit a year. You know what I'm saying? So the numbers, they don't seem scary when you compare them to like the average stuff. You know what I'm saying? Just age in general. How many elderly people die every day just from being old? And so 1,000 victims, like it's fucked up that all these people have died from just being sick with some weird ass flu. But I'm scared because the numbers keep going up. That's the main thing. Like, the numbers keep going up. So the numbers keep going up. And they're talking about it's going to take several months before this thing actually peaks and we see just how expansive it has gotten. It's going to take several months after that to concoct some type of vaccination. Then it'll take several months of clinical trials with the vaccination before it's actually implemented into the public. And then we'll see side effects from it, maybe even serious health issues or deaths as a result of these inoculations or vaccinations from this strand of this coronavirus. Shit is just so weird, yo. And it's like on a micro level, evolution happens all the time, yo. These shits, like viruses, evolve rapidly and constantly, and that's so easy to see how these things mutate and change from one thing to another, that it's deadly to us, you know what I'm saying? And it's like Noah's Ark, and God told Noah, take 2 of every animal of their kind. Well, no, it actually says take 7 of the clean animals and 2 of the unclean animals. That's a lot of animals. But why you ain't leave the bacterias and the germs and the viruses? Why you ain't leave all that shit out? Or was that your intention, to make these microscopic organisms that we have no control over, that can wipe out and devastate huge populations of people? So weird. So weird. Why did you even make viruses and diseases? Questions. So many questions. Maybe because the writers of the Bible didn't realize that germs and viruses were the cause of ailments and not curses and spells. You know what I'm saying? Oy. Waiting on these new numbers. Shit's gonna be ridiculous. Oh.
The numbers are way down. The numbers are way down. Way down. 94 deaths. Only 1638 new cases in Hubei province. Only 1638 cases in Hubei province. Now, it's 534 non-Hubei cases, non-Wuhan cases. So the non-Wuhan cases are down slightly. But the number of cases in Wuhan is 1104. This is such a low number, though. 1638 cases in Hubei province. That's the lowest number of in Hubei province in a while. So the official numbers continue to drop. The official numbers continue to drop. This number from Wuhan is about 400 less than yesterday and 800 less than before. The number of non-Wuhan Hubei cases was down about like 10 from yesterday. But this is a low number compared to recently. Low number, and then 93 for deaths, which is certainly sad, but that's less than 103 yesterday. So hang on a second. Where is the Hubei number? Okay, I want to show you this. I want to post this actually. So the number of Wuhan cases yesterday was, what was it? Yesterday the Wuhan cases was 1552. And then 2 days ago the Wuhan cases was like 1900 something.
But it's a little higher today. He said it was 16 something and went up like 100.
1921. Okay. Okay, so let's see. Let me post this. Another day, another drop in official new virus cases in China. New cases in Hubei down to, what's the number today? 1638.
But like you said, though, those are China's official numbers, and that's all we really got to go by, and that's all he goes by is the official Chinese data and updates. So he's not listening to a bunch of hearsay or third-party reporters. He goes directly to the Chinese websites, and when they update their numbers, he reports on that. But like you said, like, can we really trust these numbers? Are they accurate? Especially when the number of new cases are starting to drop already, when previously, doctors and scientists were like, "Yo, this thing is going to take a few months for it to peak," and it seems like it already peaked out and it's in the decline as far as goes, and mortality rate. So it's not a sad thing if these numbers, like you said, if the numbers are accurate and less people are being infected or contracting the Wuhan virus and less people are dying from it, then I feel a lot better actually. Like, I just feel that's good news. For me, I would consider that to be good news. The only thing is, how accurate is the data, and can you really trust it? Can we really trust what China is telling us about what's going on in their country? Because they don't like to tell us stuff. Let's do. Oh, did I really click on something? Didn't mean to do that. Wow, it made me click on my own channel. That's awkward. So I wanted to look up.
Hi. Got a small favor to ask of you.
Got a small
Please
favor.
add your name to say you support our campaign.
You support
a campaign.
Yo, Bernie wanna be the man for you. A march with Dr. King? We know you did, Bernie.
Our ancestors understood origins by extrapolating from their own experience. How else could they have done? So the universe was hatched from a cosmic egg, or conceived in the sexual congress of a mother god and a father god, or was a kind of product of the creator's workshop, perhaps the latest of many flawed attempts. And the universe was not much bigger than we see, and not much older than our written or oral records, and nowhere very different from places that we know. We've tended in our cosmologies to make things familiar. Despite all our best efforts, we've not been very inventive. In the West, heaven is placid and fluffy, and hell is like the inside of a volcano. In many stories, both realms are governed by dominant hierarchies, headed by gods or devils. Monotheists talked about the King of Kings. In every culture, we imagined something like our own political system running the universe. Few found the similarity suspicious. Then science came along and taught us that we are not the measure of all things, that there are wonders unimagined, that the universe is not obliged to conform to what was considered comfortable or plausible. And again, if we're not important, not central, not the apple of God's eye, what is implied for our theologically based moral codes? The discovery of our true bearings in the cosmos was resisted for so long and to such a degree that many traces of the debate remain, sometimes with the motives of the geocentrists laid bare. So, what do we really want from philosophy and religion? Palliatives? Therapy? Comfort? Do we want reassuring fables? Or an understanding of our actual circumstances? Dismay that the universe does not conform to our preferences seems childish. You might think that grown-ups would be ashamed to put such disappointments into print. The fashionable way of doing this is not to blame the universe, which seems truly pointless, but rather to blame the means by which we know the universe, namely, science. Science has taught us that because we have a talent for deceiving ourselves, subjectivity may not freely reign. Its conclusions derive from the interrogation of nature, and are not in all cases pre-designed to satisfy our wants. We recognize that even revered religious leaders, the products of their time, as we are of ours, may have made mistakes. Religions contradict one another on small matters such as whether we should put on a hat or take one off on entering a house of worship, or whether we should eat beef and eschew pork, or the other way around, all the way to the most central issues such as whether there are no gods, one god, or many gods. If you lived 2 or 3 millennia ago, there was no shame in holding that the universe was made for us. It was an appealing thesis consistent with everything we knew. It was what the most learned among us taught without qualification. But we found out much since then. Defending such a position today amounts to willful disregard of the evidence and a flight from self-knowledge. We long to be here for a purpose, even though, despite much self-deception, none is evident. Our time is burdened under the cumulative weight of successive debunkings of our conceits. We're Johnny-come-latelys. We live in the cosmic boondocks. We emerged from microbes in muck. Apes are our cousins. Our thoughts and feelings are not fully under our own control. There may be much smarter and very different beings elsewhere. And on top of all this, we're making a mess of our planet and becoming a danger to ourselves. The trapdoor beneath our feet swings open. We find ourselves in bottomless freefall. We are lost in a great darkness, and there's no one to send out a search party. Given so harsh a reality, of course we're tempted to shut our eyes and pretend that we're safe and snug at home, that the fall is only a bad dream. Once we overcome our fear of being tiny, we find ourselves on the threshold of a vast and awesome universe that utterly dwarfs in time, in space, and in potential, the tidy, anthropocentric proscenium of our ancestors. We gaze across billions of light years of space to view the universe shortly after the Big Bang and plumb the fine structure of matter. We peer down into the core interior of our star. We read the genetic language in which is written the diverse skills and propensities of every being on Earth. We uncover hidden chapters in the record of our own origins. We invent and refine agriculture, without which almost all of us would starve to death. We create medicines and vaccines that save the lives of billions. We communicate at the speed of light and whip around the Earth in an hour and a half. We have sent dozens of ships to more than 70 worlds and 4 spacecraft to the stars. To our ancestors, there was much in nature to be afraid of. Lightning, storms, earthquakes, volcanoes, plagues, drought, long winters. Religions arose in part as attempts to propitiate and control, if not much to understand, the disorderly aspect of nature. How much more satisfying had we been placed in a garden custom-made for us, its other occupants put there for us to use as we saw fit. There is a celebrated story in the Western tradition like this, except that not quite everything was there for us. There was one particular tree of which we were not to partake, a tree of knowledge. Knowledge and understanding and wisdom were forbidden to us in this story. We were to be kept ignorant. But we couldn't help ourselves. We were starving for knowledge, created hungry, you might say. This was the origin of all our troubles. In particular, it's why we no longer live in a garden. We found out too much. So long as we were incurious and obedient, I imagine, we could console ourselves with our importance and centrality, and tell ourselves that we were the reason the universe was made. As we began to indulge our curiosity, though, to explore, to learn how the universe really is, we expelled ourselves from Eden. Angels with a flaming sword were set as sentries at the gates of paradise to bar our return. The gardeners became exiles and wanderers. Occasionally, we mourn that lost world, but that, it seems to me, is maudlin and sentimental. We could not happily have remained ignorant forever. There is in this universe much of what seems to be design, but instead we repeatedly discover that natural processes, collisional selection of worlds, say, or natural selection of gene pools, or even the convection pattern in a pot of boiling water, can extract order out of chaos and deceive us into deducing purpose where there is none. The significance of our lives and our fragile planet is then determined only by our own wisdom and courage. We are the custodians of life's meaning. We long for a parent to care for us, to forgive us our errors, to save us from our childish mistakes. But knowledge is preferable to ignorance. Better by far to embrace the hard truth than a reassuring fable. If we crave some cosmic purpose, then let us find ourselves a worthy goal.
Carvana's had a lot of firsts. 100%
no,
online car buying,
no,
car vending machines,
commercials.
and now putting you in control of your finance.
Y'all know who that was talking? That was the man.
We were wanderers from the beginning. We knew every stand of tree for 100 miles. When the fruits or nuts were ripe, we were there. We followed the herds in their annual migrations. We rejoiced in fresh meat. Through stealth, feint, ambush, and main force assault, a few of us cooperating accomplished what many of us, each hunting alone, could not. We depended on one another. Making it on our own was as ludicrous to imagine as was settling down. Working together, we protected our children from the lions and the hyenas. We taught them the skills they would need and the tools. Then, as now, technology was the key to our survival. When the drought was prolonged, or when an unsettling chill lingered in the summer air, our group moved on, sometimes to unknown lands. We sought a better place. And when we couldn't get on with the others in our little nomadic band, we left to find a more friendly bunch somewhere else. We could always begin again. For 99.9% of the time, since our species came to be, we were hunters and foragers, wanderers on the savannas and the steppes. There were no border guards then, no customs officials. The frontier was everywhere. We were bounded only by the earth and the ocean and the sky, plus occasional grumpy neighbors. When the climate was congenial, though, when the food was plentiful, we were willing to stay put. Unadventurous, overweight, careless. In the last 10,000 years, an instant in our long history, we've abandoned the nomadic life. We've domesticated the plants and animals. Why chase the food when you can make it come to you? For all its material advantages, the sedentary life has left us edgy, unfulfilled. Even after 400 generations in villages and cities, we haven't forgotten. The open road still softly calls, like a nearly forgotten song of childhood. We invest far-off places with a certain romance. The appeal, I suspect, has been meticulously crafted by natural selection as an essential element in our survival. Long summers, mild winters, rich harvests, plentiful game, none of them lasts forever. It is beyond our powers to predict the future. Catastrophic events have a way of sneaking up on us, of catching us unaware. Your own life, or your band's, or even your species might be owed to a restless few, drawn by a craving they can hardly articulate or understand, to undiscovered lands and new worlds. Herman Melville in Moby Dick spoke for wanderers in all epochs and meridians. He said, "I am tormented with an everlasting itch for things remote. I love to sail forbidden seas." To the ancient Greeks and Romans, the known world comprised Europe and attenuated Asia and Africa, all surrounded by an impassable world ocean. Travelers might encounter inferior beings called barbarians, or superior beings called gods. Every tree had its dryad, every district its legendary hero. But there were not very many gods, at least at first, perhaps only a few dozen. They lived on mountains, under the earth, in the sea, or up there in the sky. They sent messages to people, intervened in human affairs, and interbred with us. As time passed, as the human exploratory capacity hit its stride, there were surprises. Barbarians could be fully as clever as Greeks and Romans. Africa and Asia were larger than anyone had guessed. The world ocean was not impassable. There were antipodes. 3 new continents existed, had been settled by Asians in ages past, and the news had never reached Europe. Also, the gods were disappointingly hard to find. The first large-scale human migration from the old world to the new happened during the last ice age, about 11,500 years ago, when the growing polar ice caps shallowed the oceans and made it possible to walk on dry land from Siberia to Alaska. 1,000 years later, we were in Tierra del Fuego, the southern tip of South America. Long before Columbus, Indonesian Argonauts in outrigger canoes explored the western Pacific. People from Borneo settled Madagascar. Egyptians and Libyans circumnavigated Africa. And a great fleet of ocean-going junks from Ming Dynasty China crisscrossed the Indian Ocean, established a base in Zanzibar, rounded the Cape of Good Hope, and entered the Atlantic Ocean. In the 15th through 17th centuries, European sailing ships discovered new continents, new at any rate to Europeans, and circumnavigated the planet. In the 18th and 19th centuries, American and Russian explorers, traders, and settlers raced west and east across 2 vast continents to the Pacific. This zest to explore and exploit, however thoughtless its agents may have been, has clear survival value. It is not restricted to any one nation or ethnic group. It is an endowment that all members of the human species hold in common. Since we first emerged a few million years ago in East Africa, we've meandered our way around the planet. There are now people on every continent and the remotest islands, from pole to pole, from Mount Everest to the Dead Sea, on the ocean bottoms, and even in residence 200 miles up. Humans, like the gods of old, living in the sky. These days, there seems to be nowhere left to explore, at least on the land area of the Earth. Victims of their very success, the explorers now pretty much stay home. Late in the 19th century, Leib Gruber was growing up in Central Europe, in an obscure town in the immense, polyglot, ancient Austro-Hungarian Empire. His father sold fish when he could, but times were often hard. As a young man, the only honest employment Leib could find was carrying people across the nearby river Bug. The customer, male or female, would mount on Leib's back. In his prize boots, the tools of his trade, he would wade out in a shallow stretch of the river and deliver his passenger to the opposite bank. Sometimes the water reached his waist. There were no bridges here, no ferry boats. Horses might have served the purpose, but they had other uses. That left Leib and a few other young men like him. They had no other uses. No other work was available. They would lounge about the riverbank, calling out their prices, boasting to potential customers about the superiority of their drayage. They hired themselves out like four-footed animals. My grandfather was a beast of burden. I don't think that in all his young manhood, Leib had ventured more than 100 kilometers from his little hometown of Sasov. But then, in 1904, he suddenly ran away to the New World. To avoid a murder rap, according to one family legend, he left his young wife behind. How different from his tiny backwater hamlet the great German port cities must have seemed. How vast the ocean. How strange the lofty skyscrapers and endless hubbub of his new land. We know nothing of his crossing, but have found the ship's manifest for the journey undertaken later by his wife Chaya, joining Leib after he had saved enough to bring her over. She traveled in the cheapest class on the Batavia, a vessel of Hamburg registry. There's something heartbreakingly terse about the document. Can she read or write? No. Can she speak English? No. How much money does she have? I can imagine her vulnerability and her shame as she replies, $1. She disembarked in New York, was reunited with Leib, lived just long enough to give birth to my mother and her sister, and then died from complications of childbirth. In those few years in America, her name had sometimes been anglicized to Clara. A quarter century later, my mother named her own firstborn, a son, after the mother she never knew. Our distant ancestors, watching the stars, noted 5 that did more than just rise and set in stolid procession as the so-called fixed stars did. These 5 had a curious and complex motion. Over the months, they seemed to wander slowly among the stars. Sometimes they did loops. Today, we call them planets, the Greek word for wanderers. It was, I imagine, a peculiarity our ancestors could relate to. We know now that the planets are not stars, but other worlds, gravitationally lashed to the sun. Just as the exploration of the Earth was being completed, we began to recognize it as one world among an uncounted multitude of others, circling the sun or orbiting the other stars that make up the Milky Way galaxy. Our planet and our solar system are surrounded by a new world ocean, the depths of space. It is no more impassable than the last. Maybe it's a little early. Maybe the time is not quite yet. But those other worlds, promising untold opportunities, beckon. In the last few decades, the United States and the former Soviet Union have accomplished something stunning and historic. The close-up examination of all those points of light, from Mercury to Saturn, that moved our ancestors to wonder and to science. Since the advent of successful interplanetary flight in 1962, our machines have flown by, or orbited, or landed on more than 70 new worlds. We have wandered among the wanderers. We have found vast volcanic eminences that dwarf the highest mountain on Earth. Ancient river valleys on 2 planets, enigmatically one too cold and the other too hot for running water. A giant planet with an interior of liquid metallic hydrogen into which 1,000 Earths would fit. Whole moons that have melted. A cloud-covered place with an atmosphere of corrosive acids, where even the high plateaus are above the melting point of lead. Ancient surfaces on which a faithful record of the violent formation of the solar system is engraved. Refugee ice worlds from the trans-Plutonian depths. Exquisitely patterned ring systems marking the subtle harmonies of gravity. And a world surrounded by clouds of complex organic molecules, like those that in the earliest history of our planet led to the origin of life. Silently, they orbit the sun, waiting. We have uncovered wonders undreamt by our ancestors who first speculated on the nature of those wandering lights in the night sky. We have probed the origins of our planet and ourselves by discovering what else is possible, by coming face to face with alternative fates of worlds more or less like our own. We have begun to better understand the Earth. Every one of those worlds is lovely and instructive. But so far as we know, they are also, every one of them, desolate and barren. Out there are no better places. So far, at least. Viking robotic missions beginning in July 1976. In a certain sense, I spent a year on Mars. I examined the boulders and sand dunes, the sky red even at high noon, the ancient river valleys, the soaring volcanic mountains, the fierce wind erosion, the laminated polar terrain, the two dark potato-shaped moons. But there was no life. Not a cricket, or a blade of grass, or even, so far as we can tell for sure, a microbe. Life is a comparative rarity. You can survey dozens of worlds and find that on only one of them does life arise and evolve and persist. Having in all their lives till then crossed nothing wider than a river, Leib and Chaya graduated to crossing oceans. They had one great advantage. On the other side of the waters they would be, invested with outlandish customs, it's true, other human beings, speaking their language and sharing at least some of their values, even people to whom they were closely related. In our time, we've crossed the solar system and sent 4 ships to the stars. Neptune lies 1,000,000 times further from Earth than New York City is from the banks of the river Bug. But there are no distant relatives, no humans, and apparently no life waiting for us on those other worlds. No letters conveyed by recent emigres help us to understand the new land. Only digital data transmitted at the speed of light by unfeeling, precise robot emissaries. They tell us that these new worlds are not much like home, but we continue to search for inhabitants. We can't help it. Life looks for life. No one on Earth, not the richest among us, can afford the passage. So we can't pick up and leave for Mars or Titan on a whim, or because we're bored or out of work or drafted into the army or oppressed, or because justly or unjustly we've been accused of a crime. There does not seem to be sufficient short-term profit to motivate private industry. If we humans ever go to those worlds, then it will be because a nation or a consortium of them believes it to be to its advantage, or to the advantage of the human species. Just now, there are a great many matters that are pressing in on us that compete for the money it takes to send people to other worlds. Should we solve those problems first? Or are they a reason for going?
Mythmakers knew we're children equally of the earth and the sky. In our tenure on this planet, we've accumulated dangerous evolutionary baggage, propensities for aggression, ritual, submission to leaders, hostility to outsiders, all of which puts our survival in some doubt. We've also acquired compassion for others, love for our children, a desire to learn from history and experience, and a great, soaring, passionate intelligence, the clear tools for our continued survival and prosperity. Which aspects of our nature will prevail is uncertain, particularly when our visions and prospects are bound to one small part of the small planet Earth. But up there in the cosmos, an inescapable perspective awaits. National boundaries are not evident when we view the Earth from space. Fanatic ethnic or religious or national identifications are a little difficult to support when we see our planet as a fragile blue crescent fading to become an inconspicuous point of light against the bastion and citadel of the stars.
The spacecraft was a long way from home, speeding away from the sun at 40,000 miles an hour. But in early February of 1990, it was overtaken by an urgent message from Earth. Obediently, it turned its cameras back toward the now distant planets, slewing its scan platform from one spot in the sky to another. It snapped 60 pictures and stored them in digital form on its tape recorder. Then slowly, in March, April, and May, it radioed the data back to Earth. Each image was composed of 640,000 pixels. The spacecraft was 3.7 billion miles away from Earth, so far away that it took each pixel 5.5 hours, traveling at the speed of light, to reach us. The pictures might have been returned earlier, but the big radio telescopes in California, Spain, and Australia that receive these whispers from the edge of the solar system had responsibilities to other ships that ply the sea of space, among them Magellan, bound for Venus, and Galileo on its tortuous passage to Jupiter. Voyager 1 was so high above the ecliptic plane because, in 1981, it had made a close pass by Titan, the giant moon of Saturn. Its sister ship, Voyager 2, was dispatched on a different trajectory, within the ecliptic plane, and so she was able to perform her celebrated explorations of Uranus and Neptune. The two Voyager robots have explored 4 planets and nearly 60 moons. They are triumphs of human engineering, and one of the glories of the American space program. They will be in the history books when much else about our time is forgotten. The Voyagers were guaranteed to work only until the Saturn encounter. I thought it might be a good idea, just after Saturn, to have them take one last glance homeward. From Saturn, I knew the Earth would appear too small for Voyager to make out any detail. Our planet would be just a point of light, a lonely pixel, hardly distinguishable from the many other points of light Voyager would see, nearby planets, far-off suns. Mariners had painstakingly mapped the coastlines of continents. Geographers had translated these findings into charts and globes. Photographs of tiny patches of the Earth had been obtained first by balloons and aircraft, then by rockets in brief ballistic flight, and at last by orbiting spacecraft, giving a perspective like the one you achieve by positioning your eyeball about an inch above a large globe. While almost everyone is taught that the Earth is a sphere, with all of us somehow glued to it by gravity, the reality of our circumstance did not really begin to sink in until the famous frame-filling Apollo photograph of the whole Earth, the one taken by the Apollo 17 astronauts on the last journey of humans to the moon. It has become a kind of icon of our age. There's Antarctica at what Americans and Europeans so readily regard as the bottom. And then all of Africa stretching up above it. You can see Ethiopia, Tanzania, and Kenya, where the earliest humans lived. At top right are Saudi Arabia and what Europeans call the Near East. Just barely peeking out at the top is the Mediterranean Sea, around which so much of our global civilization emerged. You can make out the blue of the ocean, the yellow-red of the Sahara and the Arabian Desert, the brown-green of forest and grassland. And yet, there is no sign of humans in this picture. Not our reworking of the Earth's surface, not our machines, not ourselves. We are too small, and our statecraft is too feeble to be seen by a spacecraft between the Earth and the Moon. From this vantage point, our obsession with nationalism is nowhere in evidence. The Apollo pictures of the whole Earth conveyed to multitudes something well known to astronomers. On the scale of worlds, to say nothing of stars or galaxies, humans are inconsequential, a thin film of life on an obscure and solitary lump of rock and metal. It seemed to me that another picture of the Earth, this one taken from 100,000 times farther away, might help in the continuing process of revealing to ourselves our true circumstance and condition. It had been well understood by the scientists and philosophers of classical antiquity that the Earth was a mere point in a vast, encompassing cosmos. But no one had ever seen it as such. Here was our first chance, and perhaps also our last, for decades to come. Many in NASA's Voyager project were supportive, But from the outer solar system, the Earth lies very near the sun, like a moth enthralled around a flame. Did we want to aim the camera so close to the sun as to risk burning out the spacecraft's Vidicon system? Wouldn't it be better to delay until all the scientific images from Uranus and Neptune, if the spacecraft lasted that long, were taken? And so we waited. And a good thing, too. From 1981 at Saturn, to 1986 at Uranus, to 1989, when both spacecraft had passed the orbits of Neptune and Pluto. At last, the time came. But there were a few instrumental calibrations that needed to be done first, and we waited a little longer. Although the spacecraft were in the right spots, the instruments were still working beautifully, and there were no other pictures to take, a few project personnel opposed it. It wasn't science, they said. Then we discovered that the technicians who devise and transmit the radio commands to Voyager were in a cash-strapped NASA, to be laid off immediately or transferred to other jobs. If the picture were to be taken, it had to be done right then, at the last minute, actually in the midst of the Voyager 2 encounter with Neptune. The then NASA administrator, Rear Admiral Richard Truly, stepped in and made sure that these images were obtained. The space scientists Candy Hansen of NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory and Carolyn Porco of the University of Arizona designed the command sequence and calculated the camera exposure times. So here they are, a mosaic of squares laid down on top of the planets and a background smattering of more distant stars. We were able to photograph not only the Earth, but also 5 other of the Sun's 9 known planets. Mercury, the innermost, was lost in the glare of the sun, and Mars and Pluto were too small, too dimly lit, and/or too far away. Uranus and Neptune are so dim that to record their presence required long exposures, and accordingly their images were smeared because of spacecraft motion. This is how the planets would look to an alien spaceship approaching the solar system after a long interstellar voyage. From this distance, the planets seem only points of light, smeared or unsmeared, even through the high-resolution telescope aboard Voyager. They are like the planets seen with the naked eye from the surface of the Earth, luminous dots, brighter than most of the stars. Over a period of months, the Earth, like the other planets, would seem to move among the stars. You cannot tell merely by looking at one of these dots what it's like, what's on it, what its past has been, and whether, in this particular epoch, anyone lives there. Because of the reflection of sunlight off the spacecraft, the Earth seems to be sitting in a beam of light, as if there were some special significance to this small world. But it's just an accident of geometry and optics. The sun emits its radiation equitably in all directions. Had the picture been taken a little earlier or a little later, there would have been no sunbeam highlighting the Earth. And why that cerulean color? The blue comes partly from the sea, partly from the sky. While water in a glass is transparent, it absorbs slightly more red light than blue. If you have tens of meters of the stuff or more, the red light is absorbed out, and what gets reflected back to space is mainly blue. In the same way, a short line of sight through air seems perfectly transparent. Nevertheless, something Leonardo da Vinci excelled in portraying, the more distant the object, the bluer it seems. Why? Because the air scatters blue light around much better than it does red. So the bluish cast of this dot comes from its thick but transparent atmosphere and its deep oceans of liquid water. And the white? The Earth, on an average day, is about half covered with white water clouds. We can explain the wan blueness of this little world because we know it well. Whether an alien scientist newly arrived at the outskirts of our solar system could reliably deduce oceans and clouds in a thickish atmosphere is less certain. Neptune, for instance, is blue, but chiefly for different reasons. From this distant vantage point, the Earth might not seem of any particular interest. But for us, it's different. Consider again that dot. That's here. That's home. That's us. On it, everyone you love, everyone you know, everyone you ever heard of, every human being who ever was, lived out their life. The aggregate of our joy and suffering, thousands of confident religions, ideologies, and economic doctrines, every hunter and forager, every hero and coward, every creator and destroyer of civilization, every king and peasant, every young couple in love, every mother and father, hopeful child, inventor and explorer, every teacher of morals, every corrupt politician, every superstar, every supreme leader, every saint and sinner in the history of our species lived there, on the mote of dust, suspended in a sunbeam. The Earth is a very small stage in a vast cosmic arena. Think of the rivers of blood spilled by all those generals and emperors, so that in glory and triumph they could become the momentary masters of a fraction of a dot. Think of the endless cruelties visited by the inhabitants of one corner of this pixel on the scarcely distinguishable inhabitants of some other corner. How frequent their misunderstandings, how eager they are to kill one another, how fervent their hatreds. Our posturings, our imagined self-importance, the delusion that we have some privileged position in the universe, are challenged by this point of pale light. Our planet is a lonely speck in the great enveloping cosmic dark. In our obscurity, in all this vastness, there is no hint that help will come from elsewhere to save us from ourselves. The Earth is the only world known so far to harbor life. There is nowhere else, at least in the near future, to which our species could migrate. Visit? Yes. Settle? Not yet. Like it or not, for the moment, the Earth is where we make our stand.
Alright, I'm gonna get out of here in a minute.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
And hopefully we'll be able to use each one like 100 times at least.
Now, is there any innovation or any breakthroughs in fuel, in the type of propulsion systems that you need? I mean, conceivably, is there ever going to be a time where we have like a Star Wars X fighter that can just go shoot off onto its own?
You know, there's potential for more advanced, more efficient thrust engines, and probably one of the most promising ones in the near term is actually a nuclear engine, a nuclear thermal rocket, where you, instead of using combustion to propel hot gases out the back of your nozzle, you actually use a nuclear reactor, and you take hydrogen, you flow it over that, you heat it up like super hot, and shoot it out the back without lighting it on fire. And if you do that, you can actually get much more thrust with much less mass of fuel, like a smaller fuel tank, but more thrust over time. So that's one possible way to go.
So it's conceivable that one day there could be a standalone unit that doesn't need thrusters that eject.
Oh, it still would look like a regular rocket because the back of, of the nozzle would still have like fire coming out the back, but it would just be superheated. Instead of lighting it on fire to heat it up, you would there you go.
There we go here. Nuclear propulsion, NTP.
Yeah. Nuclear
thermal propulsion. So the top one is a traditional and the second one's the nuclear one? Wow.
Yeah, so right, so there it is. That's the hydrogen coming in and flowing over the reactor. Instead of having liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen, then all you need is the liquid hydrogen.
Wow.
So that's one way, but in the short term, the advance you're seeing there with that Starhopper is that it's still a traditional chemical propulsion rocket, so it's got fuel and oxidizer, which is liquid oxygen. Because no oxygen up there to have fire, you need the pyramid, right? So you need the oxygen and the fuel and the spark. And you have to bring your own oxygen if you're in space because you can't use you don't have the atmosphere anymore. So you carry liquid oxygen and some fuel. And in the Falcon 9, for example, it's basically kerosene. It's rocket fuel, but it's RP1, but it's basically kerosene mixed with liquid oxygen. The engine you saw in that Starhopper is advanced and different because what it still uses liquid oxygen, but instead of kerosene, it uses liquid methane. And it's actually not as efficient quite. It doesn't have quite the specific impulse, which is a measure of efficiency. It doesn't have that quite as good as hydrogen. It's better than kerosene, but not quite as good as hydrogen. But here's the thing. You can make it on Mars. And that's why Elon's building that engine. Because you can go to Mars and you don't have to bring your gas to come home.
Oh, so that was the big knock on going to Mars for the longest time, was that you'd never be able to return.
You have to wait 2 years for the trajectory for the planets to come back around, so you have a window to come home. So you do have to stay a while. But the beautiful thing is if you can go someplace and gas up again, fill up your tank without having to bring all the gas with you, that's huge, right? You can carry so much more that way. And that's with the carbon dioxide that's in the Martian atmosphere and the water that's in the ice that's on the surface of Mars, you can have a reaction, a process that allows you to take those two things and make liquid methane. And you could have a tank of that ready to go and all done robotically. You could get the telemetry back saying, we got the gas, and then you go.
Now, how much are things going to accelerate now that you have all these different companies competing against each other?
That's what's beautiful. Is like the pace of technological change is like really going exponential again, just kind of like it was during Apollo. So we're back onto that really rapid, the fast track. We kind of fell off of that for a little while. And the nice thing about, people ask me like, what's the biggest difference between working at SpaceX and working at NASA? And I would say it's decision speed, because we'll make up our mind quickly. Now, the reason we can do that is we got a tremendous amount of agility, because sometimes when you make up your mind quickly, you make the wrong decision, right?
Yeah.
But if you hurry up and figure out that you made the wrong decision and you have the agility to then say, okay, that was not right, let's try something else, then it works. At NASA, we had all these contractors and suppliers and a very cumbersome kind of system that we took a long time to make sure we made the right decision, because changing things was prohibitively costly. But SpaceX doesn't have to worry about that.
Oh. Now, what is the difference between the way SpaceX is handling it? You said Boeing has something. What did they call it again?
So NASA has this commercial crew program, and they selected two commercial companies to partner with, SpaceX and Boeing. And so Boeing is using an older rocket that's been around a long time called the Atlas V. And they built a capsule to go on top of that called the Starliner.
And so this is strictly for commercial flights.
Well, it's the anchor tenant, if you will. The core customer is still NASA, because NASA is going to use both of these rockets to replace the space shuttle, and we won't have to beg the Russians for rides anymore.
Let me see what the Boeing one looks like. What's the name of it again?
Starliner. Or it used to be called the CST-100.
Let me see what this sucker looks like.
We used to call it the POS-100 because we're competing, but but it's a good vehicle.
Okay, so it's kind of similar in its design, a little bit.
It's
the way it looks. Wow, it looks pretty dope.
Yeah. One key difference is it lands. We splash down in the water, and this one lands on land with those airbags. So
oh wow! Fuck that.
Yeah.
What if those bags don't work? So is it fill up like the way they use rovers on Mars, where it's surrounded by these gigantic airbags and it bounces when it hits the ground?
It doesn't bounce because that's not good for people. Robots don't mind. But if you bounce like that, you're going to be really upset. So it just hits and kind of like airbags that deploy in a car, they deflate and then you're done.
And so this is on the same sort of timeline as the SpaceX ship?
Yeah, I think they're I think SpaceX is really ready to go like in March, like very soon. But I think we're going to wait a little longer because they're talking about extending the mission for Bob and Doug and keeping them on the space station. So they need more training.
Sorry, Bob and Doug.
Yeah. Well, they get to hang out in space for a while. I don't feel too bad for them.
And their equipment is keeping them from losing all the bone density and muscle and everything like that.
Yeah, they'll be fine.
Now, when does Elon go to space?
Oh, wow.
I mean, how well do you have to have the system working before you put the boss in the capsule and shoot him off into the heavens?
He's got a lot of work to do here, so I don't think he's going anytime soon, but he does eventually, when we get this up and running, he does eventually want to go. He talks about he wants to die on Mars, just not on impact.
Boy.
You know, that joke he gets?
Yeah.
So that's he's serious about that.
He really does want to die on Mars. Like, if he's really old.
He wants to go and live the rest of his days as part of a permanent Martian colony.
Oh, Elon, I got to talk to you about this.
But he's not going until
Has he always thought that way?
Yeah.
That's always been the plan?
That's always been the plan.
Maybe we can get him high again. See if he reconsiders. Seems like a terrible idea.
Well, he's going to wait. He's not going to be the first one. He's going to wait until we have like pizza up there and some cappuccino and like a decent hotel.
That's some crazy
shit. The big number is 30 red.
Did you go live on Mars? I don't know if I would want to just die on Mars, though, you know?
Oh.
Yeah.
How accurate is that movie?
I think what's the Navy SEAL in there? He gets like
it's crazy from the
gets like what do they call it? Deep dementia or something.
Yeah. Is that fake?
Yeah, that's fake.
Goddamn Hollywood. So this process of getting back to surface level, how long? You said it takes a day. What do you have to do?
So what you do is you close up that hole and you convert the habitat into a pressure chamber. And what you do is you very, very slowly bring the pressure back to sea level. So you decrease the pressure and you slowly, as if you're slowly going up in the water column. And then as you do it gradually, the nitrogen slowly comes out of your blood and you can feel it kind of tingles.
Oh, wow.
Over the course of a day, you try to lie still in your bunk and just like read a book or something, but you feel like this tingling. And then after about a day of that, they get you all the way back to sea level slowly so that the nitrogen, you know what it is? It's like if you take a can of soda and you shake it up. If you open the top quickly,
right?
But if you open the top really slowly and you let it slowly come out, you don't get all the bubbles.
Right.
It's that same effect.
Ah, that's a great analogy.
Yeah.
What's freakier, being at the bottom of the ocean or being up in space?
Up in space is more surreal. Yeah, because the floating, the Earth out the window, the views are better. But being down there was pretty wild too. I remember once we were doing this experiment where I had my crewmate and I had an ultrasound, and we're doing this telemedicine experiment. So there were these docs in Houston looking at the screen, but there's a delay. And I was supposed to find her kidney, and I'm like searching around for a kidney. And then I look up and I look out the window and I see a 6-foot hammerhead shark right out the window. And we have a guy in the water. And I dropped a giant F-bomb, like, fuck, you know. And all the docs in Houston are freaking out. They're thinking, like, in a moment they're going to see her liver explode on the screen or something. And they're like, what's that? How's the patient? I'm like, patient's fine. Got a 6-foot hammerhead out the window.
Yeah, that's got to be really weird, right? You're in that thing, in their world. For how long? 2 weeks?
Yeah.
So is that the weirdest animal that you saw, is the hammerhead?
The scariest thing I saw was one night I was taking a dump. This is a true story. The way you do this, okay, number one, you just pee in the pool, okay? But if you have to go number two, you go into the pool, because you don't want a floater in your pool, right? That's
of course
like Caddyshack. You don't want that.
Right.
So what you do is you go, you don't take a tank, you just take your mask and your fins, and you go down.
Naked?
You can. We had a mixed gender crew, so I wore some trunks, but and then you just go down, and you have to swim, I don't know, it's like maybe 10, 15 feet, it's not that far. And there's what we call the gazebo, which is just a little dome that has air inside. Now you're out in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, like with no tank, and you're 60 feet down. It's night. You can't see a thing. You're alone in the ocean, but you can see this little gazebo. You swim to that. You pop in, and then you got air, just some valves. You let in some fresh air, and then you hold on, and you take off your trunks and you just let it rip. But the problem is the fish get accustomed to this.
Oh Jesus!
Yeah.
So they go there knowing that you're gonna poop.
As soon as you drop in the water at night, it's like the dinner bell going off. And there's like school. Yeah, because this is feeding time.
Whoa. And so you feel them like pecking at the back door?
The worst are the angelfish, because that shape, they can get like right up in there.
Oh,
it's like not cool.
Boy.
So you take your fin off and you're like whacking them.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
So that's all bad enough, but as you're doing that, and you're in the pitch black Atlantic Ocean, 60 feet down, no scuba tank.
At night.
With the sound of the ocean like lapping against the dome. And you're looking down and this endless black, just a black void. And you're thinking about every single scary ocean movie like Jaws, The Meg, whatever, The Abyss, all those scary movies, right? And you think about all this things that could be down there. You can't help but going through your head, so it's kind of freaky. And then you finish, and you put your mask back on. And I took a big breath, and I went down, and I opened my eyes in my mask in the darkness with my flashlight, and I saw, like right in front of me, this huge eyeball, like about the size, I don't know, of a saucer, like this big, staring, unblinking right at me. And I freaked out. I just tore off for the pool, for the moon pool and the habitat. I jumped in there, I surfaced, I'm screaming. And my crew come running thinking I've been bit by a shark or something. And I'm like, giant fish! And it was a Goliath grouper.
Oh, I've seen those things before. They're enormous.
Size of a cow. It's like
hundreds and hundreds of pounds, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Scared the living hell out of me.
Yeah, those things could literally eat a person.
Yeah. It was big enough, that's for sure. And so just the sight of it scared the heck out of me.
So where were you? Were in the Atlantic?
Yeah.
How far away were you from Florida? Where were you at?
We were just off the coast of Key Largo.
Okay, because that's what I was saying. They live down there.
Yeah.
Oh, that's an enormous fish, man.
Huge.
I've seen videos of people catching them off of boats, and it seems surreal. Look at that. It's like a giant largemouth bass. Mm-hmm. That's what it's like. If you go bass fishing, they're so similar to bass, in the way they look.
Yeah. Now imagine
Jesus Christ, look at that thing.
Yeah. Imagine being eye to eye with that thing in the middle of the dark Atlantic with no scuba tank.
They're delicious too, I bet. I don't know if they taste as good as regular grouper.
I wasn't gonna. So you get a different. Yeah, I wasn't gonna find that.
Look at the mouth on that thing. Good Lord.
I'll tell you another quick story about down there. So I went out for a night dive once, and I spent the beautiful thing about saturation diving like this is you can do basically infinite time, bottom time. You're not limited to 60 minutes. You can stay up there for 6 hours, whatever. So I was out doing this night dive, and I found this beautiful shrimp, and it was just spectacularly gorgeous. It was translucent. You could see through it. You could see its organs move, internal organs, doing their thing. And I stared at it for at least an hour. Just held my light on it and just sat there and stared at it. And it was really beautiful. And I come back inside the habitat, and I'm kind of hungry. And the best space food we got is shrimp cocktail. And I pulled the thing off the shelf, and I'm like, oh, that looks good. Then I'm like, I can't do it. I can't do it, man.
You felt bad because you just saw the shrimp? Wow.
I ate it the next day.
The next day.
Yeah.
But for that day, though, you really felt bad.
I felt bad.
Wow. Grouper, you would have felt bad? Like a nice grouper sandwich?
It
Ever have a
scared
nice
me, so
grouper
I think
sandwich
I
in
would have
Florida?
been okay with that after. Just because it was.
Yeah, I wonder if they've ever eaten people. Because it seems like they could, I mean, they swallow giant fish. It seems like if you're not a large person, they might be able to just suck you right in there. You know?
See, now, if this happens to me again, I'm going to be even more freaked out.
I feel like I've read that grouper have bitten people before.
Yeah.
Like, probably trying them out. Like, if they get hungry, if you're that big, you probably have to eat so much.
Yeah, this nonstop buffet for those guys. And, yeah.
So, when you're down there and you're doing all the swimming, you're using a rebreather?
No.
You're using tanks, regular scuba tanks? And what is the capacity of these tanks? Like, how long can you stay down just swimming around for?
We have two, and we can isolate them in case one of them springs a leak. But you don't have that much more time than a standard scuba tank. But we have is refill stations all around the floor with high pressure hoses. So we have these quick disconnects on our system that you can plug in and fill it right back up, and then you're good to go for another couple hours.
So when you swim to go take a poo, you have to do that? You have to wear the tank, or do you just hold your breath?
Just hold your breath. You're not going that far.
How far are you going?
Like 15 feet or so.
In total pitch black.
Yeah. There's a light on the gazebo, but that's all.
So you see that light out there, and you know if you get to there, that's where you're pooing.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
Wow. That's got to be so strange.
Yeah.
What was it like to get back from that? I would probably feel... It seems like it would be real similar to getting back from space.
Yeah, it is. The thing about it, the way it makes it such a great training exercise psychologically, is if you had to get to a hospital, it takes about the same time from that habitat as it would from the space station. In both cases, it takes about a day. Like in the space station, you got to get in the Soyuz, you got to put your spacesuit on, you got to detach the Soyuz from the space station, you got to separate from the space station, you got to do a deorbit burn, you got to land, the helicopter's got to come get you. By the time all that's done, it's like a day.
And the Soyuz is a Russian craft.
Yeah.
So we have to use Russian crafts to get back from the space station.
Right now, we have to use Russian craft to go and come back.
How weird is that?
It's not cool.
What happened?
All right, so it's not good. None of us are happy about this, but what happened was the shuttles, let me just say this, is a magnificent flying machine. I mean, what's really remarkable, if you go down to like the California Science Center and you look at Endeavour, we designed that thing in the 70s. Like, it doesn't even have a microwave. All right, it's got a conventional convection oven.
Wow.
So it's like ancient technology. The flight computers on that thing, your Apple Watch could run circles around them. I mean, it's like nothing. They're so primitive, but it took off like a rocket. It landed like an airplane. You could carry people. You could carry the Hubble Space Telescope in a trunk. You can do a spacewalk from it. It has a robot arm that you see there. Yeah, there's Endeavour. So that's my flight actually. That's STS-123. In the middle, that's the robot that we put together.
Wow.
But anyway, it's an incredible machine, and we'll never design anything like it, maybe ever again. Certainly not anytime soon. So, despite its technological incredibleness, for lack of a better word, it had a couple key limitations. One was it's not that safe. So we lost two of them, Challenger and Columbia, and we could talk about that. I knew the guys at Columbia, and that was really, really rough. And then the second thing was it's super expensive because it took so much maintenance, even though it was reusable, or most of it was. It took so much maintenance, it took a standing army to keep it running. We're spending, I think, $3 or $4 billion a year on the program. And there's no way, if we wanted to build something that was going to be more cost-effective or safer, there's no way we're going to get a plus up from Congress of like an additional $4 billion a year to go do that. The only way really to make it happen was to stop flying the shuttle. So we took a very painful decision, and we said, okay, we're going to retire these things so we can make something new. And we know that there's going to be a gap period where we're not going to have anything, and it's going to suck. But the good news is and the great timing about this conversation right now, is that gap ends this year.
Really?
Yeah. 2020 is when that painful period is put to rest.
And what happens?
We're going to have a SpaceX Dragon.
SpaceX Dragon?
Yeah.
That's a great name.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, we're going to have a brand new ship. And not only the Dragon, we're going to have the Boeing Starliner. And then we have 2 other private companies that are going to be launching people this year. It's incredible, these 4 companies all trying to put humans into space with private companies.
Yeah.
And the schedules are just aligning, so it's all looks like it all will happen in 2020.
Now, they've done some civilian trips up into space, right?
They have, and that's all happened by paying the Russians.
That's what it is?
For rides, yeah.
Why is their equipment so much better?
It's not. It's the only game in town. Once we retired the shuttles, there was nothing else available. So.
I would be like, hey, how well are you guys maintaining these things?
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? Like, tell me what's your maintenance schedule?
It's been a little scary lately because they've had some mishaps, right?
Like what?
Well, we had a launch go squirrely where the rocket didn't work right, and they had to punch off. Nick Hague was the American on that. Fortunately, he was fine. He
punch
walked
off
away.
Meaning eject.
Yeah.
All right, guys, I gotta go fix me some dinner. I'm getting hungry. The ceremony was tonight? Yo, I thought it was Friday for some reason. Oh my fucking God. Yes, please. No, please accept it for me. Oh. Okay. Okay, bye. Huh? Okay. Okay. Oh my fucking God. Why am I thinking the grant ceremony was Friday and it's today? Wow. Really? Why did I think that shit was Friday? And I don't even have it marked on my calendar at all. I have nothing on my calendar for today. Wow. Fuck it. There's nothing I can do about it now. Alright, guys. I'm gonna get out of here. I'll holler at y'all later. Peace.